Alright, hey guys. So, to start out my presentation, I wanted to give you all a little background info on Zigbee. So, what is Zigbee? Zigbee is a communication protocol used to create small, low-powered personal area networks. Its goal is to be much simpler and less expensive, both in terms of money and computing resources, than Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. It has spread to numerous applications, some of the notable ones being wireless light switches, electrical meters, traffic management systems, and many other consumer and industrial equipment. I found the name origin a little interesting. Zigbee is referring to the waggle dance of honeybees after they return to the beehive, and despite becoming a pretty big name now, it has been around since 1998 and gone through multiple upgrades since. Now I'll dive into some of the finer details of Zigbee. The transmission range varies depending upon the frequency being used and whether or not there are any objects between the transmitter and the receiver. The frequencies that the devices can work on range from 868 MHz up to 2.4 GHz, and they vary by geographic region, and this can cause the range to vary from between 10 to 100 meters. Fortunately, Zigbee devices can chain together to create a mesh network, meaning that if a device is too far from a receiver, one can place an intermediate device between the two to help with communication. And these are some of the examples of the various mesh layouts that you can have. Every personal network must have a coordinator device, or a hub, to help with device inclusion and exclusion and optional network encryption. In each of these diagrams, the coordinator is marked orange, and while the location varies, there is always one coordinator. On a side note, there is a big competitor to Zigbee, and that's called Z-Wave. You can see the logo right over here. The two protocols are pretty similar, aside from some differences in battery consumption and simplicity. The biggest difference, though, is that Z-Wave is proprietary, so royalties must be paid every time a product uses it. Zigbee is free to use, and this has led to it being adopted by more companies. This has also led to me purchasing only Zigbee-enabled devices, since I think the future smart home and smart grid will run off of Zigbee and not Z-Wave. I bought a variety of Zigbee devices to test, and they are all listed here. My coordinator is a Samsung SmartThings 2nd generation hub. It's not the nicest, but it gets the job done. Plus it comes with a pretty cool smartphone app, and it comes with a Z-Wave antenna as well. Next up is the Philips Hue Starter Pack and Light Strip. The pack comes with 3 light fixtures and a hub, which can incorporate all the lights into various lighting scenes. The Zen thermostat is similar to the popular Nest that I'm sure you've all heard about. It required some moderate hardware modification to interface with my apartment's HVAC system, but it wasn't that bad to set up. I would have preferred the Nest, but unfortunately it only operates over Wi-Fi. What's weird is that the current version of the Nest includes an antenna that can interface with Zigbee, but the software doesn't allow it. Some people have speculated that this is a form of future-proofing, but who knows. The Zen Simple looks nice and gets the job done. The GE plug-in smart switches are pretty simple. They turn devices on and off, and they can also monitor power consumption. Last up, the QuickSet door lock with Zigbee. This door lock can fit into most regular-sized doors and enables one to open a door up with a code number, a key, or from a Zigbee network. Here's a little illustration of my home Zigbee network. You've got the Samsung hub, which is then connected to the public-facing internet. It's also connected to the door lock, the Zen, the 2 smart switches, and the Philips Hue hub, which in turn connects the 4 individual lights using an offshoot of Zigbee called Zigbee LightLink, but it still operates on the same frequencies. The tools I've been using to analyze my home networks are listed here. The main hardware component is this Atmel RZ USB stick. It's a transceiver aimed at helping the development, debugging, and demonstration of the Zigbee networks. Straight out of the box, it only comes with passive packet reading abilities. In order to unleash its full potential, I had to flash a new firmware onto the device called KillerBee. KillerBee is both the name of the new firmware that adds packet injection capabilities, but also a set of tools developed to help test the security of home networks. I'll get into those later, but right now we have a new default configuration RZ USB stick. Here's a quick little overview of my setup I've got here. As you can see, here's the Atmel RZ USB stick. It's very tiny, and this is one of the only pieces of hardware that you need to begin your packet capturing with Kali Linux. So, first I'll give you a quick demo of packet capturing with my Atmel RZ USB stick. So I have the RZ USB stick plugged into my computer, in the latest Killer software and all dependencies downloaded and installed. You can find instructions for that on this link. So the first thing you need to do is make sure that the system sees your Zigbee antenna. Killer comes with a program to do that, so open up your terminal and type in ZBID, and your results are printed to the screen right there. As you can see, it shows the device ID, and this changes from session to session, so it helps to check each time. You've got the product name and its associated serial number. From there, you can use another program included in Killer called ZB Wireshark. Using the specified ID and channel, ZB Wireshark will send sniffed Zigbee packets to Wireshark through a named pipe. Zigbee traffic only travels on channels 11 through 26. My first goal was to see what channel my Samsung SmartThings hub was operating on. Some online research and browsing through forums hints that the hub operates on one channel, determined when each device is made at the factory. I couldn't find an indicator of that channel anywhere on the SmartThings app or the device itself, so I did it the old-fashioned way and listened for traffic on every possible channel. To start this process off, first type in ZB Wireshark, then the -C flag to specify the channel you want to listen on. I'm going to start with 20 here. Next, you do the -I flag to specify the device that you'd like to use. ZBID specified before that my device is 110, so I'll type that here. And then you press enter. I got the most traffic on channel 20, but I also saw some on channels 21, 22, and 24. I'm not sure if this is due to the forums being wrong, or if I'm seeing traffic from other nearby networks, but I'll determine that later. So with this settled, you can see this is Wireshark currently capturing data right now. So you can see I was at 104, 106, 108, so the packets are currently coming in because the multiple devices are talking to each other and the hub and the network right now. These are all the Zigbee packets. Alright, so we know the antenna works. We're good for now. I threw this time-lapse in here of me flashing the USB stick with new firmware. I thought it would be a quick 1 to 2 minute process, which is why I started filming it, but I was very wrong. It ended up being closer to a 3 to 4 day endeavor, with me trying for an hour or two each day. I eventually decided to go bring it to one of my TAs, who has some experience in microsystems, and beg him for help. So he took a look at this setup, changed one thing, and successfully flashed the firmware on his first try. My issue? I was holding an adapter the wrong way, so the pins were being placed in the wrong holes and causing the device to short. It was a silly mistake, but one that I will never make again. Here's a picture of the completed process. You can see there's a little LED on the USB stick, and when the firmware is successfully loaded up, it changes from blue to that evilish looking orange color. Here's a screenshot of the successful upload process. And here's what you can do with the new Killer firmware. The first thing I did was to verify that the upgrade process worked. To do that, I used ZBID again. Now, the product name is KillerBee001, and the serial number is different. It's FFFFFF, bunch of Fs. This is good. This means that the installation was successful. Now, we can take advantage of packet injection. The first tool I wanted to try is called ZB Stumbler, and it works by transmitting a beacon request frame while channel hopping to identify a coordinator device. So I'll start that here. To give you a better illustration of how the tool works, I will run it with the -V command to give us a more verbose output. So it starts on channel 11 and then slowly increments after running for 2 seconds. You can see we receive something up here. This is channel 20, so these are the Philips Hue lights. This is channel 24, and nothing on 25 and 26, and then it restarts. To give a more concise output, I'll let it start running here. So eventually it will create a final listing of the Zigbee networks that the USB stick has seen. The first time I ran it, there were 9 of them, and I purchased 9 devices, so the math added up. I then started performing this network scan with all but one device turned off each time, so I could start to see which devices mapped to which network. I was able to loosely identify the specifics before I realized I could confirm this research by going on the SmartThings console online. ZBStumbler identified that my hub was operating on channel 24, and the online portal confirmed that, along with the network IDs of the attached devices. The next tool I'd like to demo to you guys is called ZBDSniff. It can parse the output file of a packet capture for a network's transport key. The key is sometimes transmitted across the network in plain text when a new device joins the network. You can see it here in Wireshark. Let me find the network key. Here it is. And we scroll down. Here it is in plain text. Here's the transport key. So, the tool that we use to find it. So, type in ZBD. First, we're going to change directory. Okay, so ZBDSniff, and then the input file, and then press enter. Alright, so that same transport key that we saw in Wireshark is now listed here. So, for the sake of using this tool, we can copy it, then open up Wireshark again, and then add it to our preferences so that we can see the decrypted contents in Wireshark. So fortunately, ZigBee is a protocol that Wireshark can understand by default. So here it is down here. I'll add a new one. It's the one from before. So you go new, and then paste the key. I'll label it the transport key. Apply. Okay. Apply. Okay. And now we have the decrypted network traffic. You can see some commands here. You can see up here a device joining the network, device announcement. In ZigBee's current state, it is possible to record a decrypted command like the one here, and then transmit it again across the network. This is called a replay attack, and several of the common ZigBee software stacks can be defeated by this fairly simple attack. This will hopefully be eliminated in a future upgrade. There's a fairly simple solution as well. If every frame transmitted by the hub is accompanied by a sequence counter, and the hub keeps track of the current sequence number, then it will only accept frames with counters higher than the current number. That way, an old command an attacker is attempting to replay won't work. Unfortunately, I was unable to test out this ZB replay tool because it requires multiple killer B sticks. There were a bunch of other tools that required the use of many USB sticks, the most notable one being ZB War Drive. This one scans on all channels and could potentially require upwards of 15 USB sticks. The last tool I'll show you is ZB Association Flood. ZB Assoc Flood transmits a flood of requests to a target network. It seems like a ZigBee DDoS attack, and I wanted to try it on the network my desk lamp is attached to. I'll open it here. So, you type in ZB Assoc Flood -P for the personal area network, which in my case it's 0x1DCC space, then -C for the channel. My hub is operating on channel 24, and -S for the interval, the 10th of a second, and Press enter. Now, kind of hoping the light would turn on and off, or at least some flickering or something would occur. However, there was nothing, and many of the books and websites I read said that some mitigations for this have been built into the latest versions of ZigBee. So, give it a shot here. So we're starting, you can see it's transmitting and receiving on my killer USB stick. We're getting some results down here, but nothing's happening. The light's just been constantly on. So, unfortunately it wouldn't work, but we're good here. Alright, so you can see here, we sent and received 30 requests, but nothing happened.